friend. So if we don't know each other, I'm Alyssa. I'm the founder of Make Your Design Matter, and I share resources and conversations for self-employed designers to help them confidently grow their design businesses. I also own a design business myself called Amped Designs. I do brand and web design. And I'm really excited to be joined by my friends Meijun and Estefi, who own TakeThree Studio and TakeThree Uni. We actually all went to college together. We went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York, and we've kind of stayed in touch through social media over the years. I have really, really, really loved watching their social media posts about how they run their business and their amazing work. And so much of what they post is so relatable for me and probably for so many other freelancers. And so when we started talking, we had this initial idea to chat about making the transition from business owner to freelancer, from employee to business owner, aka freelancer, because we've both done that. And when we were talking, we kind of shared so many of the same fears and challenges and experiences. So we're excited to chat about what we've all experienced and what we've learned and how you can make the jump or get further into the jump that you've made. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Meijun and Estefi. I would love if you can introduce yourselves and tell everyone a little bit more about you and what you do, and maybe also kind of how and why you started your business.
For sure. Yeah. How about I'll start and then Major, you can take it from there. We are like over preparers, so 100% we have notes of exactly what we want to say, how we want to say it. And if we don't get to it, you guys will get to it in the comments of this recording, because we have a lot to say in such little time. But I am a Steffi, like Steffi, but with an E on in the front. So Estefany. And I was born here in Ecuador, in Quito, and at 17, I left to New York to study at Pratt, which is where we all met. And I studied communications design with a focus in graphic design. So I believe both of my friends here are fellow advertising art direction majors, right? And I'm like graphic design, if we go like really specific. Um, but yeah, and I am a sound healer. I'm a certified in the Himalayan art of sound healing, and it's one of my favorite things to do at the moment. I love podcasts. I love podcasting. I love listening to podcasts. I love music, everything. And I believe that it teaches me words that I don't know about myself. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. And then I'll tell you a little bit about more about what we do behind in a little bit. But Meijun, why don't you take it from there?
Awesome. I love that intro. Hello, everyone. So my name is Meijun, and Estefi already knows my overused icebreaker that the way to pronounce my name is your favorite months, May and June. So it's May, June, July. And I was born in China and I was raised in Jamaica. And then I went to study in New York, and that's where I met Estefi and also Francie, who's here. So nice to see you, Francie. And I'm an art director. I see myself, or I describe myself as a visual storyteller. I graduated with a degree in communications design with a focus in art direction. And I'm a ex-professional table tennis player. And yeah, that's a little bit about who I am. And I guess I can dive into a little bit about, before I do that, the third member of our studio is Guillermo, which I have right here. And this is Guillermo, and he's a South Korean rescue dog. He was rescued from the meat farm, and we adopted him when we were in New York. And he's actually our chief marketing officer. So he's the face of our studio. And, he keeps us on our toes. He provides emotional support. and he also makes sure that we're billable. So that's who we are, Estefi, Meijun, and Guillermo, and we are the founders behind TakeThree Studio. And we are currently based in Quito, Ecuador, but we work with clients from all parts of the world on similar to what Alyssa does, brand development, also website design. Um, and also, we host an online space for entrepreneurs where we get to meet up each month to either do, have accountability hours where we work together online. We have live Q&As together. We have group homework chats where we either listen, read, or watch something that's assigned for the month and we kind of discuss it together. And we also provide one-on-one mentorship. So that's a little bit of like what we do for TakeThree Studio and TakeThree Uni. That's the online space. And I'll let Steffi jump into why we, started our business, our freelance business.
I'm like having my own conversation in the chat for everyone who's in the conversation. But yes, so how do we get here? Really, I think that the main thing that we have to all kind of root ourselves into is the fact that Major and I are both, or we're both international students at university. And that meant that we were going to be international people, in this country until we became permanent residents, which was, everyone's dream at least some point. So we had a degree from Pratt. We were really happy. We fell in love with each other 10 days before graduation. I decided to tell Meijun, hey, I fell in love with you. What do we do now? He told me he had to think about it. Long story short, very short, we have like 3 whole episodes about our story because I have so many details to tell you. But yeah, he told me he had to think about it. We did a pros and cons list, and we are now here. Almost 10 years later, in May, we'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary. And like it's just been the wildest ride of our life. And from when we decided to be together, it was then the race of like, okay, clearly our race to a green card or a permanent residency is going to be through work. So we decided to fall in love with the one non-American person in school. So like, go you. So we started applying. I think part of our job was to apply to as many jobs as we could. And Major and I would just go to coffee shops and would hustle. And like it was not, we wouldn't think about it. We just had like, this was before like AI and robots, you guys. Like this was like we were like pixel pushing, like, making sure our resume was like good on InDesign and it was like, perfection. And we were printing it on like heavy paper and like going to choose the paper at like the paper store and like it was nice and you were like testing the color of like that's not the red that I want my brand to portray. Like it really mattered. um and we were just hustling, so we got into a couple of agencies. The story for how Meijun got into his job, I can kind of say it really quickly. It was one of those days where we had just like sent so many emails, so many applications, so many resumes, and so many LinkedIn hellos that we were about to close our computers. And Meijun was like, oh, should I like just like, I should just like, keep going. Like I should just go to bed. Like I can't keep going. And I was like, Meijun, just like one more, like you don't know what this one is going to lead to. So he applies. It was like that time where all you had to do was like resend a resume button on LinkedIn, and all he had to do was do that. He did that. The next day they called him in for an interview, and long story long, that job ended up giving him his visa, which ended up being the H-1B lottery that we both won almost a year or two later. And yeah, then I worked at some different places. I worked at a design shop for a jewelry company in the fashion district in New York. I freelanced for a lot of people. We both freelanced for a lot, like during school, etc. I decided to quit and like gamble not getting a visa just because the people was like basically a sweatshop and like everyone there was Latino and everyone was underpaid and like it was just like I don't want to like I don't want to go there, but like it was just not the right environment for where I had seen myself with a Pratt degree going through. I was like, my parents didn't go through all of this to put me through this for me to be here. I'm sorry. Like I'd rather like have to quit and like go back in the time limit that we have than do this. So I found an agency. So everyone that's like in the university, for example, or looking for a job, find those like recruitment agencies like that find you gigs. They are the ones that found me this 2-week gig at this agency called Razorfish. I knew someone working there through LinkedIn, so I messaged them. I knew they had worked at the Pratt design print shop at like the ComD office. So I was like, hey Ben, I know you from the print shop in Pratt. Can you please, do this? And we got into our agency jobs, and it was all great until you realize that you're really tied to one agency. And in creative, it's really important to get exposure to multiple brands, multiple agencies. Meijun did get that. I did not get that. And because of other mental health reasons and like, legal things that you have to go through as H-1B people, it was just more important for us to quit for creativity and try and do work that mattered more while traveling and trying. This was pre-pandemic, so nobody knew what was coming for us. But yeah, the idea was to do pet-friendly travel, be traveling creatives, work on the go, build brands. We didn't really know what that looked like, but we kind of knew. And yeah, Meijun, do you wanna add some sprinkles that I left out? Because I think I talked for a long time.
Oh, I love I love that you go into so much detail, and that goes to show how great of a graphic designer you are, because you literally pay attention to everything and you share everything as much as possible. So thank you for doing that. But just to add to what Estefi said, and to answer the question, because I would love to hear why you, Alyssa, decided to start freelancing and why you made that jump. But for us, I think one of the main things was that because we were international, it was really hard for us to be tied to one company. So we just felt like, I don't think that we went to college for 4 years. We hustled and we did such amazing work and we graduated with a degree to just do banners for a living. So we just decided, like, let's take the leap. You and I are both very talented. Let's join our portfolios and let's just like, quit. And with quitting for us meant we had to leave the country within 60 days. So we decided to do that versus if they fired you, you had 10 days to leave. So we kind of weighed our options and we decided, let's just quit and let's start this, whatever this life is going to be. And we like to call it our third take on a more meaningful creative life, hence TakeThree Studio. And yeah, we just left and we made the jump. And as Steffi mentioned, our original plan was to be creatives on the go, almost have that digital nomad life, drive around in our car and just work as much as we could at coffee shops. And the pandemic happened, and now we're more just based in Quito, Ecuador. But as I mentioned earlier, we work with clients from anywhere, which is awesome. Why it's awesome to have a design business. You can just work from anywhere. So yeah, that sums up that part of the question of why we started freelancing or how we made the jump.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing your journey to like, yeah, everything. This is awesome to learn more about you both. So while I can't relate to the visa aspect of it, I can relate to the feeling of like, wait, we got this degree and we're just making banners and just kind of like getting tired. Like New York is so fast paced, and I think that was kind of one of the reasons we wanted to move too, even though it was so exciting to be there, especially as a student. We were just like burnt out, and I was only 2 years into my career. So we decided kind of spontaneously to move. We had done a bunch of research, and long story short, we decided to move to Asheville. We both quit our jobs. Like literally my boyfriend texted me. I just put in my 2 weeks so we can move. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that too. So I did. And so we didn't really have too much time to plan. We could have stayed longer, but we wanted to get out as soon as we could. So I think we moved like a month after that. And so I didn't know anyone in Asheville. I did a little bit of research, and it didn't seem like there were a lot of options for in-house design studios or in-house positions at companies. So I was like, well, I'll try freelancing and see how it goes. And that was 7 years ago. 6 years ago, I officially like got my LLC. So so far so good. But I think one thing you maybe touched on a little bit, or we talked about when we were kind of brainstorming for this topic, was that fear aspect of all the things that you're giving up and balancing like the things you're giving up, the things you're gaining. So I'm curious how that came into play for you, and like how you, I don't want to say, what is the word I'm searching for? Like how you overcame it, I guess. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that change on its own is always a scary thing, especially when in our situation, and I'm sure for you as well, working so hard to find a job. So you have that security and you have, your monthly income. So it feels safe. So sometimes that, that gets prioritized over what you actually feel passionate about doing. So for us, it was really, really scary to basically start from scratch again, you know? And for us, at the end of the day, we decided that it was more important for us to try to live a more meaningful creative life, for lack of a better term, to actually be able to explore other creative expressions or actually decide who we want to work with or the type of clients we want to work with, the type of projects we want to work with, the things that actually fuel us or actually fills our cup. I think when we started to prioritize that, the fear started to feel less. And that's when we started to understand, like, we can actually do this. Let's just do it with fear, and know that we will be able to problem solve anything, because that's what we went through college for, to problem solve creatively. So we just knew that we were able to do that. And that's how we overcame it. It's just by doing versus less of the overthinking, whether we're able to do this or not. So that's a little bit of it, because for us, it just meant literally giving up 9 years of our lives, because we got to the States in 2011, then we left around 2019. And that's when we decided to start TakeThree Studio. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that point about doing instead of overthinking, because I know I've heard from so many fellow designers that it's so easy to just get so stuck in your head that you never actually make the move, because you're always like, well, I should do this first before I take this step. And if you just keep thinking that, like, you're never going to take the step. But yeah, I think for me, I mean, when I was young, like moving to New York City was like the dream. And I was so excited to go to school there. So I felt, not only when I was making the switch to freelance, but when we were moving out of New York, I felt like I was like, well, I wanted this so badly. How can I just give it away? And there's also this kind of saying that, like, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And I kept thinking, like, if I quit my New York agency job, am I failing? And so for me personally, like, it took me a lot of time, not, well, yeah, it took me a while to like get out of that mindset and realize that I didn't fail. Like, I chose to leave because I wasn't happy. So yeah, I think Estefi wants to say something too.
Yeah, I love that. I think that you complemented exactly what I was gonna say, because I think for me, yes, it's really important to say, like, yes, we did it with fear. But I was so naive. Like, oh my God, if I could look back and tell her, girl, this is the amount of shit you're gonna go through and the amount of paperwork you're gonna go through and the amount of, like, grit this thing takes, I don't know if she would make the jump, but I think I now think, and I'm grateful for that, like, naiveness and that ignorance of, like, Meijun had this backup plan of, like, yeah, being this studio. My backup plan was like, I don't know, being YouTubers and like I really wanted to have like my dog wear a vest and a GoPro and like narrate like movies of like daily vlogs of like our like three viewpoints on YouTube and like become like this viral sensation and like have that pay my job like my living. Like that's what I wanted to do if like we really are like getting transparent here, you know? But like the pandemic changed all that and like our studio almost like got catapulted. So I think that with that, it was just like it was almost like I don't think I was thinking of like doing it with fear. It was almost like fear became like fight or flight just like kicked in. And it was like, whoa. And like it got to the point where Major and I were like not even like sleeping. We were taking turns to sleep because we had the like files to deliver and like things we were exporting and like, videos that were like on After Effects running, in the background. And um I think that it's really important to understand that like how we made the jump was also very I'm a Virgo. I am like a very much like I take risks, but I am a calculated risk taker for almost everything in my life. From like the sauce I choose in my salad every day or whatever it is, or like for my French fries, to the most important business decision we've made today. And we talked budget, we talked what exactly looked like. So we called the office lawyers and we asked them, hey, what does it look like hypothetically, because we know you work for the agencies we're about to quit. So hypothetically, because my parents are lawyers, so like I was like, how do you do this? Hypothetically, there's this international person in your agency that wants to quit. How long will it take? How long do I have in order to like leave the country? They said 60 days. If you do it on your own, if you don't get the visa and like by lottery, you don't get the visa, which was the time that Trump was being elected. So a lot of H-1B visas, specifically from our countries, were being denied. I had just seen a lot of coworkers whose lives had been basically ripped away in 10 days. Their children's like in high school and etc. So we were like, let's just like make the jump and not renew our visas, tell our people 60 days, what does that look like in budget? How does that work? I went on Facebook, I found a gig that paid me as much money as I needed to just like get the fuck out of my agency. And we got going. We packed up our life, as crazy as it sounds. We found this incredible apartment by Central Park by like luck, paying $1,000 by this friend. And it like what the universe just kept like dripping on us and it was incredible. And like when I tell the stories of our life, then it's like feels like a movie. And now we're here. But be like take risk premeditatingly. And yeah, like, be smart. Like the universe will provide, but also like, take steps, like thinking. But major
Yeah, I love hearing your side of it, Estefi, as you recount all of that. And I love hearing, Alyssa, what you said about you're the one that made that decision, right? You're the one that took that calculated risk. And I think that's a great way to really um, you know, think about it versus, you've given up on something. I don't think we have given up on anything. I think it was just the closing of that chapter, and TakeThree Studio and Amped Design was our next chapter. And with that said, I think Steffi talked a little bit about budget, and I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because as we dive into the part about sustaining a living, I think that was the biggest scare. It's can we actually sustain a living doing this? And something that Steffi and I up till today that I think was something that we pride ourselves on, that actually was just super good to start from the get-go, was really knowing our numbers, Even before we made the jump, we knew what our numbers were for us to actually make that jump. So I think that for us, because we did that from the beginning, we were able to create a budget tracker for ourselves and for our studio and what it actually meant for us to do this, just from expenses and income. Can we actually make this a reality, you know? And what I love about this is that it helps take away the emotional aspect of it and worrying about if we're doing enough. And we're able to really visualize and understand what we need to make per month to keep the lights on. And I think that would be the biggest thing I would say, you know, apart from, you know, making the jump is actually when you've jumped, can you stay there? Like, can this stay alive, and how can we actually sustain this? I think that would be the biggest thing that I wanted to share when it came down to that, because we were able to really think of like, okay, instead of thinking, oh my God, I need to make $5,000, we're able to really reframe it and think of it as, you know, I need to secure 2 branding projects, or I need to secure 1 branding or 1 website project. So by knowing the numbers, we're able to really, you know, see it almost come to life and make it feel less scary. So I think that's a nice segue into that. And I'd love to hear, you know, Alyssa, what your thoughts are on that too.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for sharing that, because I feel like if I look back, that's one thing that I didn't know a lot about that I wish I had done, was like thinking about the numbers and like actually thinking about the logistics. When I moved and started, and I quit my job and moved and started my business now, which I call my business, then I was just like, I'm just a freelancer. I didn't really see it as running a business, but like if you're one person working directly with clients, you are a business. If you're making an income. And that was just something that I didn't think about. And about a year in, around the time I got my LLC, I took a business class from a local like business coaching organization. And that was like where everything clicked. And I came up with like the profit and loss statement and like, you know, figuring out how many projects you have to book each month in order to make a profit and everything like that. So that was like key. And I wish that that was something I had like, I wouldn't even say like planned, because I just wish I had known to even think about it. I just didn't know, because like we all said, we were all so young and naive, as Estefi said. Um, but yeah, and I think that aspect of sustaining a living is one thing that so many of us are like constantly thinking about. And like even when you can see like you have the money in your bank account, you're always like, what if I run out? Like I just gotta book another project. And so it's so helpful to like have records of things and see like, okay, if I don't book a project this month, like everything's not going to go down in flames. Like it's going to be okay. But yeah, okay. So another kind of fear that we talked about was,
Wait, before we
oh,
move
sorry.
on from sustaining
Yeah.
living, no problem. I just wanted to share that yes, that confidence that not everything is going to go up in flames is so important, because I think sometimes we just get reactive out of fear, and we don't realize that then we're just like feeding to the fire from a place of just like, and the fire's just gonna get bigger, and it's just gonna consume you. It's gonna consume the business, it's gonna consume everything, the energy, everything. So I think it's important to be like, okay, we are not making money. Yes. Now, have you implemented tools in order to reach your clients? Do you have a Behance? Do you have a website? Do you have a contact form? Do you have a network that you can tap into? Do you have, if you're physical or local, do you have brochures? Have you gone to coffee shops? Have you, have you reached out to your local theater or community places or houses? Like, have you done that? And if you have done that and still not heard back from people, then we're talking about communications issue, and we should like take a step back and then be like, okay, how can we re-say better what you're saying, right? And for that, call us. You have 3 impossibles here. So I wanted to say, but what I wanted to say as well to that is, um, 2 very important things, and I think that they're really connected. One, invest in learning and developing your skill sets. So if there's something that you really like and there's something that you really like to do, for example, for me, that was web design. I took it in college. I developed it more at work. I was leading a team of developers. It was huge. Ended up going to Beijing to kick off the team. I feel like there's a lot of exposure to like high levels to like minute details. As you guys know, I'm very curious. I was learning from everywhere, taking notes everywhere. Um, and I knew that I needed to make myself indispensable. So I was just soaking up all the knowledge from all the capabilities. So like never feel like you can't learn something from someone that like, as a project manager, like it's this, it's that, like always like be curious, be learning, be like developing those skill sets and just learning, be aware, be open, because there's so much you can learn. And I know that we're going to tap into that in a little bit, but I just wanted to also say to that a caveat of like, don't be those people that just ends up constantly signing up for courses just because they feel like they don't know enough to be enough, or to know enough to sell enough. Because then we're just consuming a bunch of money, and you're not actually putting anything out. A bunch of input will not make output. So take a step back. And this is when my second point comes in of writing not want to do lists just as importantly as writing want to do lists. Okay. Why? Because when we write out what we want to do, it's awesome. It's fucking Disneyland. It's Magic Kingdom. We're there. It's a ride. It's safe. It's amazing. When we're actually going to for the theater and we want to make money, we're like, what makes the most money? Give me the knowledge on the thing that I do the most that makes the most money and give me that one. Give me a ticket to that one. Let's take that one to go. And you can't do that. Like abort mission. Again, the fire that's going to consume the fire. Yeah, no. So in the not want to do list, when Meijun said, I do not want to do a banner, and I said, I do not want to do a banner ever again, like we were taking it seriously. When Meijun said, I don't want to do email marketing, cool, I do it, you know? Like, that's great. So understanding what you don't want to do and what you can offer and don't want to offer to people, not because you know it means you have to offer it as a service. So that's how you sustain a living, is to really understanding what do you want to do and what do you not want to do. And these are like living evergreen lists. They can change and grow with you, but definitely have them because they are your north and it's important. It's important. So that's what I want.
I love the don't want to do list. That's brilliant. Because I feel like that is so helpful for like remembering why you're doing this in the first place. Because a lot of times it's like to get away from the things that you didn't want to do. So that's great. Um, yeah, and I totally agree about what you're saying about like investing in things, but not like everything under the sun. I feel like that goes along with what almost what you were saying about like calculated risks, like also calculated investments, like really thinking about your goals and like what is on your want to do list and like what's going to help you get there. And yeah, I think on your note about like if you're not making money, have you implemented XYZ? Have you done the communications? Have you done the outreach? That kind of ties into something I was thinking about, how like when you work for yourself, now you're the person who has to do that. Whereas before, when you're working for a company, obviously the boss goes and gets the work and you're just like, you just take the instructions and there's always work for you. And I think one thing that holds a lot of people back, is that kind of fear of like, now you also have to market and be the salesperson and go to networking events and do the billing and pay your taxes and like all these other things. So how do you both, yeah, how did you both, I guess, find like a good balance for that? Because that's like half the job sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's all the jobs. I honestly feel like I think the idea of wearing many hats and taking on multiple roles and responsibilities was something that we did not realize was such a big deal when we got into this. We just thought, oh yeah, it's fine and dandy. We'll just find projects and then we'll work on projects, make money, and that's it. Oh my God. Like we started this 2019 and 5 years later, we're so proud to say that we're a team of maybe 12 people and it's just the two of us, right? Like you have Meijun from creative, you have Meijun from finance, you have Meijun from scheduling, you have Meijun from client engagement, then you have Estefi from tech, then you have Estefi from web design. So it's a lot of different roles that we didn't realize that we had to take seriously. And it may sound like a joke right now as I'm saying it, like it's funny and stuff, but we actually sat down and we said, okay, we actually have to lean on each other's skill sets. What roles are you going to play? What roles am I going to play? Right. And then from there, we need to make sure that when we're communicating, because we're a team of two, like we need to make sure we're asking the right person to show up. Like, to this meeting, I need, Steffi would say, I need Meijun from finance. I don't need Meijun from creative. I need Meijun from finance to know if this project makes sense. Right. So, et cetera, et cetera. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's so important to acknowledge and honor the different roles that you have to play when you are having when you have when you're self-employed, when you have your own like solopreneur business, right? It's I guess easier and sometimes harder when it's me and a Steffi, a team of two, but because we can divide roles, we can lean on each other's skill sets. But at the same time, that took a lot of time for us to trust each other that much because sometimes the control aspect comes in where we want to make sure things are done our way. But over time, we were able to really communicate really well between each other. We're still working on it. It's always a work in progress, but we're able to build trust and we're able to lean on each other's multiple roles. And that's made it so much lighter for us to say the least. But I think, yeah, like it's a lot. It's a lot that you have to learn as you go. And that was something that we had to do. I'm sure that's something you had to do as well. But I think just having the open-mindedness to want to learn all those things because you love what you do, I think was a big thing that kept us going. So that's what I wanted to share about that. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say too.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that to everything that Meijun said, plus one. And I wanted to say that that really came from me. And like, I don't want to say that from an ego standpoint, that more came from like the, I believe that in creative, we lack the training of the business side of how teams works, of like how like the outside of just developing the art goes. And I had the opportunity and the curiosity to be exposed in a team at an agency where we were working for one really big brand, and we were a team of 200 from people in Colombia to people in like in the office from like business development people, client engagement people to like the like one QA guy that gets pulled right like only on the one project. And I was in like Scrum sessions, I was in sprint sessions, I was in like, meetings with like task masters and like, you know, in Beijing, I was like in meetings with like all these product managers and project managers. So like and I was like taking notes about how they talk, how they speak, how they move, what's their lingo, like how do they think? A project manager takes care of me because they know how much capacity I have. So I'm gonna befriend this person, first of all. And then I'm gonna, make sure that the creative tasks get, joined into the capacity. So it was one of the first, um, systems in which they were actually counting for my capacity within the dev team because I couldn't push as many designs as the screens as they needed me to. So I was like loud and open and I was like in meetings with like, the head dev people and I was like, I know you think I'm just a junior designer, but no, so in Take3, you have to do the same thing. And it was like me sharing all of this with Meijun and just being like so frustrated at being like, yo, you need to do more than just be the creative. Now, this is all the things that you need to do. And I thank Steffi from the past that built the whole Notion system that we have now because sometimes I'm like, yo, that's really complicated. How does she even do that? So honor all the roles, honor all the phases you're in, be open, be learning because honoring all the hats that you're wearing and all the roles, like I could not say how I think that's the most I think that's the most important thing we've done for not only sustaining a living, making the jump, but also understanding that we need to work with a partner, not like with a lover and a friend and a business partner. And I don't know how that feels as like a solo preneur. So tell me, Alyssa.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you talk about working together because I'm just by myself all the time, which is not a problem for me personally. But one thing I was thinking about the other day was how I feel like a lot of creatives can relate to this, like especially if you work for yourself, you're like always thinking about your business. Like you go out and you see something that reminds you of a project, or you wake up in the middle of the night, you got to write down a note or something. And so I do that. And my husband is always like, stop thinking about work. So I have him to make me stop. But since you both work in your business, do you feel like you ever are like have to both like force yourself to stop? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think that I can take this because I think this is one of the biggest reasons why we started couples therapy. We lost all control of the ship. You know, it was almost like maybe even Steffi from work were able to show up, you know, and compartmentalize and be like, okay, that's creative, that's QA, that's this, that's this, that's devs, that's tech, that's internal versus that's client versus that this. Okay, we got that part down. But then it was like, how do you then also become something outside or go to dinner and maintain a non-work conversation or have a fight as a regular relationship person that then doesn't bleed into your client call? Because of course the client doesn't see it, but then you have to like put your shit together and like, you know, the dude next to you, you're like, you know, wanting to just like throw a popcorn at. So like how do you do it? Like how do you like compartmentalize? And I think that's where we just had to ask for help, and we had to admit that like with the pandemic, with the move, with starting a business, with being friends, and yes, Meijun and I both, and Alyssa, we all come from the same school and we shared classes, etc. But I think there's one thing with like being classmates and doing projects together or respecting each other's arts and processes. And there's a whole other thing with actually becoming teammates in the business and trusting each other and learning to lead, learning to listen, learning to push back. And in therapy, we learned a lot of tools like, for example, safe spaces, creating safe spaces so that Meijun and Steffi from the relationship could come in and talk about that. This goes into the hats and the roles, right? So we had to give Steffi and Meijun from relationship a hat and a role. Um, and that's why a friend, we just met this Canadian friends, and they were like literally soulmates of ours. Like we could not believe we had like the same story, and we were from like different, like they were like older than us, and it was incredible. But they laughed because they were like, "Oh, do you have your to-do list in paper?" And I was like, Steffi from relationship does. Steffi from business and TakeThree management does not. But, you know, I can't just like pull her up right now because we're like at dinner. So I think honoring that, and it goes back to the roles and honoring what it takes to be here today. And that goes with taking care of ourselves, taking care of our relationship, and then taking care of the business, and then taking care of others. And at one point, that whole like train system just got, you know, really derailed. But yeah, tell me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, since I work by myself, I almost feel kind of like fortunate that I have my husband to just like stop me from overthinking, because I could just like talk about work all day and he definitely does not like that. So it's almost a good thing. But you know, pros and cons, because I also kind of can get like very stuck in my head, and sometimes it'd be nice to have someone to bounce an idea off of. But yeah, I also I was making notes about what you were saying about how we kind of lack that business side of training when you're learning like a creative art. And I feel like for anyone who is working for a company or used to work for a company, that's almost a benefit because you have had the chance to observe everything that's going on and like see how other people do things and learn what you do and don't like, and then take the things that you learned into your business. So it can actually be very helpful. I think Meijun had something to add too, and then maybe we can take some questions. So
Yeah, no,
let me just
go for
add,
it.
sorry, yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we can answer them in a minute. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, absolutely. I feel like we're all speaking the same language. It's yeah, it's like learning, like part of what I said before, learning as you go and honoring all the roles and all of that, and also observing while you're in your agency or observing others or seeing like just absorbing information in general and then applying what you feel like works within your workflow. I think that's something that Estefi did really well, and something that I did when I was in my agency working with a team as well, is I was able to learn how the client engagement people interact with, with clients, and um, taking that and bringing that to Take3 and all that good stuff. So I just want to like say that I feel everything that you're saying, and I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah, even when we talked before, we were like everything we were all saying, we were like, yes, I know that feeling.
Yeah. And what I wanted to just finally like share with that thought and before people ask for questions, because maybe this can give you guys some more time to think about it. I just wanted to share some quick like bullet thoughts into um the final maybe like tips and thoughts. Like for example, how do we keep ourselves accountable with the story of working with a partner, portfolio, like setting up your portfolio a little bit, and just some like quick rapid fire thoughts that we had, and then some skills that we transferred from like employment into now self-employment, rapid fire again. So Meijun, you can kind of um, fill out whatever I don't say and like, interject. So you can lower your hand so that I can know when you want that to stop me. So when keeping yourselves accountable, I would say using the right apps. So I love for productivity, I love Be Focus for communication. We use Slack. When Estefi from work cannot talk from Steffi from Meijun from personal, she does not go up to him in the kitchen. She slacks him, and it's great. So project management, Notion, we use Airtable as well for finance, but also for project management slightly. Um, Also, for keeping ourselves accountable is making sure we have fun and we recuperate the time, we recharge. Before we used to work like machines, and hey, we're not machines, we are humans and we have mind, emotions, bodies. We need to take care of ourselves. And having accountability hours. We love accountability hours, whether it's in person or online. We actually host them and Take3 Uni because like university was my favorite thing, hence Take3 Uni. But accountability hours are the best thing to like keep yourself accountable. Major and I do them together. We're like, okay, come, what are you doing? What's your stand-up? Let's go 1 hour. Let's go. Put your Be focused and you get going. For portfolio, what I wanted to say is just think about what role you want to play when you're going to get hired. So put your portfolio like that from that positioning. So if you want to be thought of as a creative problem solver, don't just like put pretty pictures because who cares? So like really think about the job you want to get hired for and the position you want to get hired for, to then position your stuff, even if it's just a Behance. Each project has a story behind it, from sketch to end result. Really, it deserves to be told. Go in for the details, go in for the juice. And now that y'all have like, ChatGPT, like y'all don't even have to like recrafting your own copies. Like, like of course, edit your stuff and then don't use so much because the world's gonna end because the machines are too hot. But let's not go there. And skills that transfer from employment. And Alyssa, I'll give you the floor so that then you can just go into the Q&A. Is project management strategy. Think about that. Be the mindset and bring in everything that you've thought of. Just write it down. You never know when you're gonna need it. Be fast and nimble. Don't get married to your thoughts. So that's everything I wanted to say. And now I'll go mute.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Alyssa.
Oh, thank you. I put my hand down instead of taking myself off mute. Anyway, yes, thanks for asking these great questions. So maybe we can each kind of give, like you said before, like kind of like real quick answers so we can make sure we can answer everyone's questions. So for CRM and managing leads, I actually don't use anything fancy. The point I'm at now, I would rather spend the time than the money on lead managing tools. But the thing that I do use is just a spreadsheet, actually. Every time I get an inquiry, I have a spreadsheet where I just fill out their contact info, project they're inquiring about, some details, and then if they were a referral, where they came from. And then I have notes about their industry, the quality of the lead, if the project went through or not. And that's been really helpful for just like looking at, especially at the end of the year, and seeing like where my clients are coming from, what percentage of them end up booking and don't, and if I'm getting the types of inquiries that I want. So what about you? Do you all use anything?
I think we're on the same page as you. We don't have anything fancy, but I think your answer was really great. I think what I wanted to share is that just understand what you're trying to get from the lead. And I think for us specifically as two creatives, I think it was really important for us to have something very seamless so that the lead that we get is really strong. So we have our contact form where we ask very specific question, almost like you're applying to work with us, from the budget to the timeline to exactly what you need. So having very strong leads from the get-go by having a strong contact form, a robust contact form, helps us filter out good leads versus bad leads. So that's what I wanted to share regarding that.
Yeah, agreed. That's
Yeah,
great.
I would just say like I would just wanted to say, Steffi from Tech here, that yes, what Meijun said, it's really important, like a robust contact form, but we have ours on Squarespace, and there you can like set up if you want like a Google Drive sheet, if you want to connect it to Mailchimp, for example, which is what we use. And then I only use Mailchimp for all of our analytics. We have the free one. We do not have 2,000 leads. We do not do like a lot of that like lead gathering. That's not really our organic push. So it's quite clean, and I do my own vetting Meijun as well. So Mailchimp, keep it simple, really easy, really nice to do landing pages as well if you don't have the money for a big website. So keep it simple and to the point.
Mm-hmm. And I don't, do you all have to go right at 4 your time? Okay, so maybe we could, do you think we could do like our conclusion and then we could stick around to answer these other questions?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, of course.
okay, so yeah, if anyone has to go at 5 Eastern, we'll kind of wrap up, but we'll stick around to answer the questions in the chat. So feel free to stay a little bit longer. But we want to obviously say thank you for coming. This has been great to learn more about Take3 and kind of share our experiences. Let me share in the chat where you can find all of us if you'd like to keep in touch. So here's my info, and here's Meijun and Estefi's, and you're welcome. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but you're welcome to reach out to me, and probably them too anytime if you have questions. And we also each put together a little thank you, a little offer to thank you for coming. So I have a resource on my website called Email Scripts for Sticky Client Situations, which we've been talking about, navigating difficult things in business. And one of those things can be when projects don't go super smoothly or clients throw curveball emails at you. So this guide has, I think, over 25 or 30 scripts for how to respond to different situations and different variations on the scripts as well. And there's a little discount code for you there. And then do you want to describe yours? You know more about yours than I do. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, for sure. I think I can take it really quickly. Maybe you can add again any thoughts, but we wanted to offer you guys something that we put together actually this year for people like us who have a lot of ideas, creativepreneurs and creatives out there, creative-minded people out there. who just have a running list of ideas and thoughts, and they don't know where to start. They feel blocked. They feel scared. They feel like everything is just like kind of taking over you. We developed this workshop, and it's a series of videos and journals, and I actually have some sound healing meditations there that I guide you through with like my sound healing bowls. But we do have videos there where we get super analytical with lists and to-do lists and being productive and rules and going through everything that we've now learned to build Take Three. And it's called Too Many Ideas. I created vitamins for Too Many Ideas to workshop. And we've given you guys a 33% off discount. So all the links and all the details will be in like the relevant place. But why this workshop is so important and we love it so much, and it's the only thing we've developed so far, is because these are really the tools that have helped us compartmentalize not only from being coworkers, but also in a relationship, and being creatives, but also, billable. So you're all welcome to ask us questions and see how it will fit with you. But yeah, all the love, and yeah, come message us and come love us, and I'll go find you guys as well. I love to like do a little stoot thing and like, follow, and we'll keep talking. But that's really it. And then maybe we can continue with Meijun. If you have anything to share, we can continue then with the questions. And Alyssa, you
Yeah.
can guide us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, sorry, Alyssa, I just wanted to add, we offer the 33% off for the workshop, as well as access to an annual access to our online community for creativepreneurs. And we've mentioned this very early in the beginning. It's just a space for entrepreneurs to be able to ask questions, to receive feedback, to learn together, to find support. I think it's similar to what you're helping with other designers out there. But this space is for entrepreneurs by creativepreneurs, and we have monthly meetups online, and we provide mentorships on it as well, and all that good stuff. And we have our accountability hour. We have the group homework chat that I mentioned earlier. So it's just a space where you have access to all of these different touch points, and also content that is only community only, that helps you with your on your entrepreneurial journey. So that's also for 33% off if you are interested. So those two offers, just want to like highlight that as well.
That's amazing and very generous of you. Thank you so much. So yeah, if anyone has to hop off, please feel free, and thank you again for coming, but we will stick around and answer these next couple of questions. So we have, what's the best format or program to have your portfolio on for easiest access to send to anyone at any time? So my thoughts are, as far as like the best program format, well, I think Estefi touched a bit on website stuff and how to display like your work as case studies. So online on some sort of website, I would say is going to be best. And if we think about what we were saying before about how freelancing is running a business, it's really great to set your website up like an agency, even if you're a one-person agency, but it's not really like resume portfolio anymore. Now it's like services that you offer and past client work, case studies that you've done. So website 100%. And then I don't think that you need to have separate portfolios for different things the same way that you would when you're applying for jobs, because now it's like you're just putting your best work that you want to attract more of out there. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm like, I go first. I'm of course that one girl that's like, me. So I would say that I kind of like agree and disagree with you in the sense that I believe that like the more platforms we're in with our portfolios and displaying our portfolios in better ways, the better in that sense. But I do think that when you are just starting to be fully self-employed, and I dare to not say the word business because I feel like shit gets triggering when we say business and people just close off into like, I'm not a business. I'm just trying to freelance. So like when you're self-employed, you're trying to garner income from your, you know, whatever you do. I would say it's really important to learn to tell the story of the services and the offerings that you have in a way that feels very polished and thought through rather than just like a menu at a restaurant. And I think like thinking like that a little bit more, like polishing, like, oh, so I worked at business and websites, I worked on my first Squarespace site in 2013. um yeah. So like it made sense for me. So I was like, okay, I want to do that. Meijun really likes storytelling and brand creation. I am a graphic designer. I really hate logo creation. He loves illustration and design and like, putting like ideas into paper. I'm like not good at that, but I'm really good at the strategy and the colors and the typography. Okay, so we'll put that together. But we don't just like offer everything and everything and everywhere. Um, so I would say that that's the biggest like meat of where I would like how I would guide you. Then when it comes down to like a website, a portfolio, or whatever, I would say, of course, I'm gonna tell you a website is going to give you the better, result. A Squarespace website, um, or maybe a Shopify if you have ecom and you already have like a little bit of merch. I don't say WordPress because you will just be hostage, to your website. And Wix, please don't. Just don't. Um, and if you want to really get into it, let's get into like the answer because I think that that's another question. Uh, but if you don't have the budget and you're just starting, Adobe, the king, the lord of all capitalists, change that we have in creative kingdoms. Now you can add an add-on to your Behance where it gives you an Adobe portfolio, actually. So you can kind of have like a website makeshift with the storytelling of an Adobe portfolio and a Behance account, and like make that Behance account kind of like more businessy because you can invoice through Behance now and like all of that stuff. So I would say Adobe's coming to crush the game when it comes down to if you're a creativepreneur. Squarespace is crushing the game still. If you're like a storyteller and you're doing blogs and you want to like get out there, which was one of our main things, was blogging. I love blogging, blogs with a big B, not a vlog, even though Meijun is our vlogger. Um, so that's a big answer to that question. Meijun, please say.
No, I think you've answered it as I would. Just having your own digital home is always the right answer because everything else is owned by everyone. So trying to have your own website where you have full control to be able to tell the story you want and attract the clients that you want, I think is always the best format. There's no right format, it's just the format that works for you. So I think you guys have answered everything, and that's what I wanted to throw into the mix.
Yeah, thank you so much. And this kind of leads into the next question, which was how did you gain your first clients? Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. I think that we for us we got really lucky because when we left New York, we one of the things that we really treasured was maintaining connections with all the people that we get in touch with. So I think networking connections is always a great thing and always leaning on that from the start. So the first thing that we did was actually the first client that we had was actually Guillermo's dog walker. And we designed her brand and we designed her landing page. So it always starts from somewhere, some type of connection. And that first connection was, great, Guillermo, our dog, so I think that that's how we gained our first client is through networking and through connections and reaching out. So never be scared to tap into all the people that you know, whether it's a friend of a friend or a past a coworker or anything. It's never you never know where opportunities come from. So it's always great to just tap into all of that as much as possible from the get-go. So that's how we got our first client. And I'll let Steffi go. I'm sure she has a lot more to add.
Hello. So I think that yes, we got lucky, and yes, we tapped into our network. And also, I think that we did a really good. So, Guillermo, our dog, our chief marketing officer, he was a pupfluencer in New York. So, we were really obsessed with Instagram, and Instagram was like this shit at this time. It was like peak best best era of Instagram, in my humble opinion. And we were really good at it. And we decided that while we were still at work, we were going to create this whole hype about, because we had gone to Seattle, go to the podcast to hear this whole thing, but we had gone to Seattle, we had came up with the name, we came up with this, la la la. So we told our best friend David, who we met at Pratt, and we were like, "Hey, can you help us design this feed that said coming soon?" And it was like with the geographical like line things that we still use in our brand, and it was nothing like, unique, like anyone, it could be anybody's brand, but it was our story, and we felt attached to it. And the C was something, the O was something, the M, it was like a nine feet. So it was like coming soon. And the O and so we kind of like wrote these poems and like what it was like these anthems, these manifestos of what each letter kind of meant to us. And we created this hype almost with our friends. And we had a link, a URL where we had emails. So going back to the CRM on Squarespace, I had a cover page for emails and people signed up for the emails. And then we chose a date. And when we launched our website, Jen filled out the contact form that Meijun mentioned earlier, filled out the contact form, and we got started. It was $500 for a website and the branding. So it was very humble starts, and yeah, it was freaking awesome.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Yeah, I totally agree about like tapping into people that you know, and even like social media relationships. Like you can, I don't know what's happening to Instagram these days, but yeah, then it was like you could build relationships with people that you never met in real life. But yeah, when I moved to Asheville and started working for myself, I did not know anybody in Asheville. So I started going to networking events, things like small business meetups, Chamber of Commerce things. We had AAF, now we have AIGA, things like that. And I am, was, and still am extremely introverted. So I like the first one I went to, I like stood in the corner and like watched everyone for like 30 minutes because I just like had never done anything like that before. And so I just wanted to say that in case anybody else like also feels very intimidated by that. Because I promise you, like the more you do it, the easier it gets. And like now you start to know people everywhere you go and it gets easier and easier. So anyway, just by like going to things, I think it's also important to like realize that you're not going to go to an event and meet 5 people who need branding. Like that's not going to happen. It's more of a long-term game. But here and there, people would need little things. And so, I'd get small projects here and there. And yeah, I also did work for very cheap. And I know a lot of people like to shit on that, but like in order to build your portfolio and build the relationships, like everyone's got to start somewhere and like you can only go up from there. So really just by like getting out there and meeting people, that was the thing that helped me the most.
I love that. I think that kind of goes into the next question that Jan put on in the chat of how did you market yourself? And I think you just shared that really well about just putting yourself out there, just showing up. And even though you're introverted, you're making an effort to show up for your business. And I think that's very commendable. And I think that's one of the big things that I think how you market yourself is just by showing up and putting yourself out there. And for us as well, as Steffi mentioned this, is really having a good, just physical presence, but also a digital presence. So whether that's showing up as best as you can on social media, if that's, something you have capacity for, but also showing up as best as you can by having a website so that people are able to find you when they're looking for you. So for us, we're lucky to be in Quito, Ecuador. So when people are searching Creative Studio, branding website, Quito, Ecuador, we kind of show up because we have a digital presence and we have left a pretty good digital footprint. So I think that that's something that we did really well, that put a lot of attention and time and sleepless nights into developing, which was our website and putting up the work that we want. Obviously it's always going to be a work in progress, but just putting something out there and putting something that you're proud of and showing what you do and expressing that as best as you can, I think is the best way to market your studio. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say that the last 2 points to this question, one, I already told the story a little bit of how we marketed us and created that hype. But two, I wanted to share that we will live in like we will leave a link in the comment, like in the description section of this one podcast that I really like from Jay Shetty, and it's called Six Strategic Steps to Discover Your Passion and Transform It into an Income. In the community, we actually did a group homework chat where we listened to it and we all shared like our findings from the because there's like little homeworks that you have to do in this episode. So I highly recommend you do this so that you understand how to market the things that you want to be hired to do, not just learn to market yourself. So I think something that you sometimes get lost in then is the ego game of like likes and like nobody likes me. But it's like, no, 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 no. This is not about you. Let's not get emotional. What are you selling? What are your services, etc.? Let's ground ourselves there. And then the second thing that goes back to the website, this was not planned at all. We did not mean to talk about the website so much, but I have. Make a good website once, 100%. You will like trust me, you will never, or maybe like 4 years on the road, you will never come to update that bug when you first launch. You will never come and like, oh yeah, I'll come and update that one thing that I really wanted. No, just do it once, do it good, put it there. Just don't think about it. Do one launch. Just do it. Unless you're hiring someone to do it for you. Have a Behance. Love Behance. If you don't want to do social, like do social, do it, at least have a good grid that introduces your style, your work, your prices or ranges, how to work with you, where do you cater to, or is it global or to a specific location? Nothing else. Nothing else. A link to your Behance if that's all you want. Good. That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
And don't hesitate to ask for help.
Yep, I can definitely relate to not updating the little things that I need to. However, having the urge to redesign my entire website every day. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. So like I said, the in-person networking and digital networking are kind of like my main form of marketing. And then some sort of digital presence for me, Instagram and LinkedIn are kind of the two that I use the most. And then I'm kind of getting into Threads. But I think it's also very personal. Like there's so many different avenues. Like you could do blogging and newsletters, and you could do, I don't know, Twitter and TikTok and this and that. And there's so many options. And if you try to do it all, you'll get really overwhelmed. So I would just try some things and like see what you like, and then like put all of your energy into the things that like A, you like, and B, are working really, really well. And also give them time. Like you're not going to see immediate return on your time investment. So yeah. Okay. And then thanks so much, Jessa, for introducing yourself and sharing. Jessa's question was, what were the things you wish you knew before making the jump? So that's such a good question. I think for me, the thing that I mentioned before was I wish I had seen myself as a business owner. I had like seen it as running a business and not like just a freelancer. And I wish I had thought a lot more about the strategy of my own brand. Like when a client hires us for branding or web design, there's so much strategy that goes into it. Like we have the questionnaire and we learn about their business and their core values, and we have like a whole process before we even actually start the design. I didn't do any of that. I didn't see myself as a brand like on an equal level as my clients. So I kind of like went back to all that when I took that business class. So I wish I had like put so much more thought into like my own target audience and my own core values and things like that. What about you?
That's really great. That's a great answer. I think for me, the thing that I wish that I knew before, I think, well, would be the business side of things. I think like I love just creating and visually storytelling, as I said, as an art director, and just doing the creative work. But I wish that I learned the financial part and also the client engagement part from the very get-go, as we were doing advertising as we were doing advertising class in college, for example. I wish that that was part of the the prerequisites to graduate with, because I think that that would have helped a lot of creatives um, have a better head start when they are working for a company or when they want to make that jump or start their own freelance studio. I think having the knowledge from the get-go is something I wish I knew before.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, and also there's a lot of resources out there. Like there's this book I love, which I have right here, which is Work for Money, Designed for Love. There's lots of really good resources that like books that there are out there. I'm sure YouTube's now and stuff that you can find out there to get you more adept into the business side of things and what is required. But this goes into the asking for help. And I think something that I wanted to highlight was I did learn some of this in business and design class that I took at Pratt, and I did learn a little bit of this just at being curious at work. And this is something that I brought into the business at like being like very minute. And I remember one of the first fights Meijun and I had was, "You're taking too long to draw too many different options. This is not billable." And he was like, "What are you talking about? We quit our jobs to be able to draw for free." And I was like, "No, it's not billable." So, yeah, remembering that, I wanted to say, of like one of the things that I wish I knew is like I did know, but I just didn't know how intricate it all would be and how much time I would be spending adminly, rather than creatively. But I think even with admin, I find ways to be creative. So I wanted to just say, for example, um, things that I wish I knew where, give yourself your favorite snack, your favorite show, your favorite something, and only watch it when you're working. I only watch, for example, low violence seasons when I'm doing client projects or websites. I only do, certain like snack things that I give myself when I'm doing certain work things because it makes it fun. It makes it a game. So really make it lighthearted, and something that I wish I would have learned was that I kind of like just needed to tap more into my inner child to make things be a little bit more like flow a little easier. So that's what something I wish I would have known. And the last thing that I would say, not as an advertising student because I was a graphic design student, is that I wish I knew before making the jump is just how important it is to leave your ego out the door when you're working with clients and client projects and things you're getting paid to work on. Because this is not, yes, it's your career. Yes, it's like your resume and all of this, but this is this person's like personal money and like life. And your ego has no place in there, and they've hired you to make their dreams visually come true. And I think that that was one of my biggest weaknesses is that I had no tools to like understand that their feedback wasn't at me or for me, and that my opinion, yes, it was great and I loved it and it was awesome and it was valid and it was thoughtful and it was educated, but it didn't fucking matter. They wanted the cow that way, and that's how the cow stayed. And like that's all you need to understand, but also have contracts so that when the client's changing their mind, that's stated in the contract. So that's what I mean about calculated risks.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I wish I knew. It's just all about calculated risks.
Yeah, I love all of that. Totally agree with everything you both said. Okay, Peyton said, I'm trying to earn more income since my clientele isn't as big as I need it to be right now. Do you have any tips for offering services on Fiverr or programs like it? So I am curious what you both think. Personally, I have never dove into Fiverr or Upwork or any of those gig platforms myself. I did when I had first started out, I did use Behance and I applied to some gigs on there. And I also used Working Not Working, which I felt it's similar to the Fiverr and everything, but a little bit more high quality. So I did get some contract work through there when I first started. And then I also had through networking with other creatives, I had a short in-house gig at an agency, which is not something I would do now, but just like taking contract work from other designers was something that helped me get some income while I was building up my own clients. What about you?
I would say, one, we have a Fiverr and an Upwork account, but like we've never gotten clients from there. With that said, because of the quality of them, I don't think we've ever put in the work to actually make that work for us. We've only gotten clients through our contact form. That's the work, that's the way they work with us, unless somehow you get in touch with our personal things. And we still send you to our contact form. Number two, I would say that it is really imperative to understand your prices and your offerings in order to know where you're marketing them. So I would say for us, I would really suggest like, Meijun loves Facebook, like not loves Facebook, okay, he like hates Facebook, but like not like he uses Facebook a lot. I don't even use Facebook. I don't have Facebook in my phone, not none of it. So he shares Facebook stuff. And then suddenly, like the one dude that knew him in high school, that was like the one dude, and now he's an entrepreneur and he's doing this one thing. He's like, hey, dude, like, hey, Michael, that was his Jamaican name. Go to another podcast episode for that. But I have like footnotes in my life. Yeah, so I would say like Facebook was really big and has been really big in terms of like networking for us to like keep in touch with people that we're not really keeping in touch, but like they kind of know what we're doing. On Instagram, like resharing to our personal stories as well, keeping a personal Instagram account. And then what I would say is something that we really like to do is putting our work up on like pages like World Brand Design and like just pages that you can like pay a little bit, not like the $300 million pages, no, like the $50 ones that you can maybe invest a little bit to get a little traction. And then Pinterest. Make sure that you're Pinteresting your posts on your website. Again, go back to your website, or even your Behance. It's okay. Pinterest, 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 Pinterest. It drives so many link clicks. So, yeah, I would say that that's the biggest thing of like, maybe your clientele isn't as big. How do I put myself out there? Doing live or collaborations with other people on social media has really helped us as well. And overall, making really relatable content, not in a ways of like we want to be content influencers, but in a way of like we like just sharing like where we're at and like not feeling so alone. Hence why we created Take3 Uni, a place where people can feel less alone. But yeah, just being honest with who you are. Like I just want to give you the floor after this story, but just tell this story. One time we got a client from Guillermo's Instagram account, our dog, the chief marketing officer. He has an account. Remember, he was influencer. That's kind of how we got here. And the dude messaged us and he was like, hey, I found you guys through your dog's Instagram account. I saw that he's your chief marketing officer. I love your personality. I'm not sure what you guys do. I have this business and I kind of need to redesign the homepage of the site. So do you guys do that? And that's how we got the project. And it was amazing. And it was for Pet Custom Center, which are like the party city for pet customs. And like we got to design this homepage and I got to work with this developer and Bali and it was amazing. And the client was incredible. And it was this partnership. They sent Guillermo costumes. So just it can come from anywhere, be open, but put yourself out there. Major. Oh. If you speak various languages, put yourself out there in those various languages as well.
Yeah, I think Estefi covered it all. And I think Alyssa, you shared a really great answer too. There are a lot of things out there that you can put yourself out there on, and just picking the right thing for you, I think is the most important thing. And really showing the human person behind who the person or client could potentially work with is also something that I value a lot, that we value a lot, the human connection. And we got a lot of our projects through human connection because people really dig who we are and what we stand for. So don't lose that as you're showing what you do and your work as well.
Yeah, I love those
I
answers.
just want to say one last thing. Sorry, one super quick story. During one time we were making a pitch. It was our third client, and I was like, you need to charge more. Like this is not gonna make us money. You need to charge more. And then in our final slide, there's a slide about us, and there's a part about Guillermo, and he was like, it's a really corporate person in like Pennsylvania, and like we're charging them a lot. Should we like delete Guillermo? And I said, no. If they don't care that I love my dog and that our dog is my boss, then they shouldn't work with me.
True.
And we that's why we stick to our thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, Ashley asked, what is the best way to learn all the marketing terminology like lead generation and things like that? So I think you mentioned before, Estefi, just like constantly learning things. Like I did and still am like always going to webinars. I always see these online summits that are free and I'll just sign up for them. So while I'm working, I'll just like pop into these seminars throughout the day. Like even if it's something that I already know about, I'll always learn something. And just anything that I feel like I need to know, I'll like seek out. Like, for example, we both took a website a coding course. That was one thing that I just kind of knew I needed to know. And so just like always being open to learning. And then also just like if you're hearing something being talked about a lot, just ask somebody what it means. I feel like a lot of times, like when you're in conversations, someone will say something, and if you don't know what it means, you'll just be like, yeah, But I usually will just be like, what's that? I've never heard of that. And like no one's ever gonna be like, what? You're so stupid. Like people love to talk about their stuff, so they're gonna tell you what it is.
That's great. I love that. Plus one to everything that Alyssa said. I would like to say that um yeah, staying curious. My favorite part, my headphones are gonna die soon. Sorry. But let me disconnect. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Yeah, okay. My favorite thing or method of learning, I would say YouTube. Just YouTube and making sure like like there's some people who are like, experienced and it's not just another marketing webinar thing that's on YouTube. And then now that you have ChatGPT, go for it. There's so much knowledge that you can use in terms of like, hey, give me the basic, hey, give me the lingo. What does this mean? What else do you think I should know? I know this, my background's in this. What should I know? Like there's so much I learn constantly by asking and learning how to ask and how to ask. But again, ask, stay curious. Number one answer to that question, I would say.
Yeah, okay. And then Ashley asked, how did you figure out the clients you really wanted versus being a one-stop shop? Do you want to answer first?
Yeah, I think that for me, I think the easiest way that we realized how to not be a one-stop shop was when we failed at our first project and we got fired. Not fired, but like we kind of had to give back the money because like it just wasn't a good fit. The expectations weren't what we could meet. So I think that was the first time that we realized that okay, that was clearly not something we want to offer to others. That's something we are really good at for us. And that's not what we can do. And then we really like to have like a red flag system. Number one, having clean leads with people coming into our contact form. Number two, how early or how on time they come to our cafecitos, which is like the calls we do, how proactive they are over email. So we have like a red flag system and we only give you a certain amount of red flags and certain amount of like, agency also over our time. So we're really respectful over that. And yeah, I would say that that's the biggest thing with clients and like dog people, we just seem to like really be like in that niche as well. So finding that what makes you unique for us is like just like being pet lovers. We have blogs on it and it's still some of our like most seen content to this day, visited like content to this day. And yeah, I don't think that you need to find a niche and only work for like sports people in order to make it. But you can if you want to, why not? There's like agencies who only do weed brands. There's agencies who only do cacao brands. There's agencies who only do anything brands. So if you want to niche yourself, go ahead. If you don't, try, see what you're good at, see what you're not. That's why the podcast is really good. But the what not to do list is really good as well. And then from there, you're gonna be like, okay, clearly I can take photos, but I'm not a photographer. Like if I take on a project that's going to be a photography, I'm going to end up spending 8 hours that I can be doing in a project that I actually like. So, Meijun?
Yeah, I think everything that you said for sure is something that we've implemented, especially the red flag system, going through a contact form. Another thing that I think is really important is actually having discovery calls with the people that you think you're going to work with. And then that way you are able to really meet them face to face, understand exactly what they're looking for, setting expectations to see if it's correct for you, to see if you guys jive, you know? And I think that's something that we've implemented as part of our client intake process that has helped us really weed out the right clients versus the clients that we have said no to, which we have said a lot of no's to. So it's really important to understand who you are going to get into bed with from a client perspective, because it's going to be a relationship that you're going to want to build on versus run away from. So getting to know them is really important.
Yeah, and the last thing that I wanted to mention was just how it's really important for you to like Meijun mentioned, like the getting into bed with, like you are also interviewing this client. They are not just the ones interviewing you. You're worthy. And I know that comes with a lot of like hyping yourself up. Like Meijun used to do a lot of push-ups before because it like built up your adrenaline, you know? I'm really good at just like making shit up and like this type of thing. So I didn't like struggle as much, but I know that Meijun did. So for example, give yourself that hype up and be like, you know, I can do this. Like, let's go. And take notes, record your stuff, do contracts. Don't be like, you know, it's just gonna be easy. And just to like, I don't want to mention the Dan Connard WordPress is great comment. I just emoji that heartbreak icon. That's it. We can go next.
I love the
Not
red
to create controversy here, guys. Not to bring controversy.
pros and cons, pros and cons. So when I first started, I was definitely less picky than I am now. I mean, I kind of like, had some sense of like, I do graphic design, I don't do photography, but I was not super picky in terms of the industries of the clients or the types of projects. But I think that was necessary again for like building up a client base and like starting to make money and everything. And over time, I just kind of learned the types of projects and types of client industries that I liked most and that I didn't really like. And as I, got more clients and my work became more, for lack of a better word, like in demand, I was able to like say no to the things that I didn't really like doing anymore and just focus on the things that I did. So now, I started 7 years ago, and now my core services are branding and web design. So I only bring in new clients for branding and web design. Sometimes I'll make exceptions for certain projects, but like if someone comes to me for a brochure, if they didn't work with me on branding or web design, I don't do it. But when I started out, that wasn't the case. So it was just like time to build my client base and also just like figuring out what I did and didn't like to do. Yeah, okay. And let's see. I think we had, did we do them all?
I
Oh,
just want to say, I just want to also talk about this year. I've been trying out a bunch of in-person networking groups, and it's always a win just by showing up. That's really great. I wanted to just like hype on that because 100%, as extroverted as you see me here, this like, like my forte ain't gonna be in person. Like I'm gonna talk to you in person about real life stuff and tell you stories and tell you where to eat and where to travel and that. But like I'm not gonna talk to you about like I'm gonna build your business in that way. I'm going to give you advice, unwanted advice, 100%, but not like sell myself in that business. I don't struggle with it, but I don't do well in like really big crowds. I get overstimulated. I get a little bit more shy. Meijun, on the other scenario, he does really well in like those networking events. So that's why I really love having different channels of outreach. So for example, you have Instagram stories, Instagram, Behance. You also have like, I have our newsletter. So writing is one of my favorite things to do. Just recently wrote a poem for our dog that had to pass and we had to put down. And, that's one of my favorite things. So finding ways, like if you're more introverted, if you know specific channels, like with the internet, the world is your oyster and there are no boundaries. So like try and put yourself out there in like niche places. You may find communities that you don't know. Twitch, their Substack, again, different communities, different places. YouTube can go as niche as you want. So go for it. Don't be scared and do it with fear. Meijun?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And you mentioned like I do really well in crowds. That's why I'm Meijun from client engagement. But the other thing that I see in the chat that Ashley mentioned was that she loved the red flag system, and she wanted us to share some of our red flags and what are some of those red flags for us. I think that's a really fun question. I guess I can start. One of them is when they don't show up on time. Like for example, when we have a discovery call, they don't show up on time. That's one of the first indicators that it could be a red flag because they don't respect your time. The second one is as early as our contact form. When they fill out a contact form and they only put like one word answers versus actually describing exactly what they're looking for, that is a very early indicator of whether it's going to be a good client or a not good client. So that's the second red flag. And I'll share one more. I'm sure you guys have. The third one is when the client like tries to like asks for discounts from even before the project has started. That's usually like like it's not going to be a good like relationship because it seems like they already don't really value your work. And if they did need a discount, and we've had clients where they are honest with us, like, hey, we don't have a big budget. That's different than asking like, hey, can you give me a discount? So it's really like understanding the nuances with it, but those are the three red flags for me.
I'll say just to finalize from our end, and then Alyssa, I'd love to hear yours because I'm sure you have some. Like, guys, write down your red flag system. Like, just put your emojis, write them down. It's important. Like, I literally say like red flag, red flag, red flag. Like, I love to like being obnoxious about it. But I wanted to say that another really big red flag that I see is, especially as like a Latino and like having my WhatsApp and like also catering to clients in Ecuador, which the lead is much lower in quality. Let's just say very important to set your boundaries. And if any boundary is crossed, like for example, I don't do business over WhatsApp. I'm sorry, but I don't give a fuck. You could be paying me $1 million that I'm not giving you my personal WhatsApp. It's just not happening. And one time Meijun made a group chat with a client. I was like, yo, take me off it. He's like, it's shameful. I don't care. Take me off it. I was like, take me off it. Like, that's my one boundary. And like, you need to respect it the most before anyone respects it. So like, if you have boundaries, if you have non-negotiables, make those your red flags. And if someone wants to cross it, like I crossed it for a client many times, ended up being a client that told me to redesign 35 packagings and then ended up having to pay me the whole fee of the project over. Thankfully for my contract, Ecuadorian client, red flag. But I'm not saying that Ecuadorian clients are red flags, like please don't take it wrong, but just saying that low quality leads, they take a lot of like mansplaining and boundaries. So I would say that that's a really big red flag. Just any boundary that is being crossed, red flag. If you don't want to sign my contract and you're like, oh, it's just gonna be easy, it's gonna be quick. No, red flag. If my friend is like, oh yeah, hola amiga, or hi friend, like I just wanted like quick little round of feedback. No.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, totally agree with everything you both said, especially Meijun, when you were talking about the nuances. I think that's really important to not like write them off because like you said, they may one common red flag I think is when they worked with a designer in the past and it didn't go well. But then it's like you have to ask more questions because like did it not go well because they hired someone who didn't know what they were doing or because they were difficult? So yeah, that's such a good point. And then I also just wanted to respond to Dan because Dan said all of my clients are one word clients and one sentence clients. And I agree that, okay, if someone fills out my contact form, I'm the same way. Like if they are not very detailed, I am usually like, orange flag. But sometimes I'll get on the phone with someone who did not give a lot of info and they're great on the phone. So I think you can tell a lot more when you talk to somebody than you can when you email. And that's why the like consult calls are so valuable. But in terms of other red flags, I actually just answered a question about this on Threads today. So I'm just pulling up what I said on Threads. One was when they say, I used to do XYZ, so I know how long this should take. when they badmouth previous designers, if they're like actually shitting on people they used to work with, then that's no good. And yeah, boundaries, if they're asking for adjustments to your process and boundaries, every time that I have changed my process because of someone else's request, it has never gone well, because like your process is your process for a reason, because you know it works. When they haven't looked at your website or your work prior to inquiring, when they are citing another designer's work as their inspiration and it looks nothing like yours. I had an inquiry a couple years ago of someone who kept citing one of my friends, actually, her website, as he loved her work, and I think she just wasn't available. And I was like, honestly, you need to just wait for her, because if you like her work so much, no matter what I do, you're never going to be happy with what I do. And then my last one was, if they're like super, super, super hesitant to move forward, I never push people, because I feel like whatever is holding them back is just going to become a problem if they end up booking. So I just kind of like let them go. And if they come back, then they come back on their own time. So yeah, you had your hand up
Yeah.
again
The
too.
last one I wanted to mention was this one case of a client that we had to fire on our end on the other scenario, which was a huge red flag that from the start I knew, but Meijun and I were both like, okay, let's just do it because we need the money and because we have a prior relationship to them, even though now there's more party involved. And we got into bed with them. We got into the thing. It was a brand naming to a brand design, and we get really excited and all these things. But this one partner in like the trio was just like a pain in the butt. And he was like, no, like bring me more, bring me more. This is not like, this is not in like the vibe enough. It's not in the vibe enough. It's not in the vibe enough. And I was like, yo, like, doesn't matter what you show her. Like, it ain't gonna ever pay off. So, here's your stuff. Here's the work we've done. Here's your money back. Here's your thing. Go find someone else. In the contract, it states exactly, this is yours. The rest of it's not yours. Thank you so much. We've learned the lesson that we should just learn to listen to our gut and our intuition before anything. And the two filter thing about what you said, like one via email and another one via phone. But also don't get don't get catfished, because some people are really good on the phone and then they're a nightmare, and then they don't pay you back, and then they don't reply to emails, and then you're kind of delivering files. So be smart. And I just wanted to I don't know, Dan, I don't know who are you, but I just wanted to roast you a little, because all of my clients are one word clients and one sentence clients. And you also work on WordPress. I think we should have like a one-on-one to talk about different platform and like better clients for you. Because if unless you're a developer, a creative developer, and like you're like hardcore doing your stuff on WordPress, let's also talk so I can design some stuff for you. But I couldn't stop that. Like it was served for me.
I will say Dan is my friend from Asheville, and in Dan's defense, he's a very good web designer. But
Obsessed.
this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for chatting with me, and thank you all for staying late and asking great questions. And this was super, super fun. So yeah, like we said before, if anyone wants to reach out anytime, our doors are open, and we hope to see you again at future events or future whatever. So yeah.
And I just wanted to finally say that don't forget to take your gift. The
Yes.
code that Alyssa made, the code that we made, and just like say hello. Don't forget to ask for help. I know it's scary and vulnerable, but just like do it and come. I love to find someone I love on Behance and message them on Instagram and tell them they're awesome. And if you need a portfolio review, anything, we're here. And the world is already hard enough for all of us to be competing. So it's always, collaboration over competition in our side of the street. So please reach out. Don't do work for free, and say no to clients that don't deserve you, because you're better than that.
Yeah.
And yeah, Guillermo was here to say goodbye and be smart.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alyssa, for having us. You're amazing, and this was
Thank you.
incredible. Can we do it again in 3 months and do another chat about some gossipy thing?
Yes.
Everyone tell us, what should we talk about?
Yeah. Let us know what else you would love to hear about, because we want to talk about things that you want to know. So yeah, thank you again. And yeah, thank you both for being here too. So yeah, bye everyone.